Alright guys, the number one topic that's still on YouTube when it comes down to TCGs is MetaZoo. So, what has happened in the last week since we last talked about it? We'll get into it right after this. Alright guys, I'm Eddie with Northwoods TCG, and as always, I'm glad to see you guys here. Hopefully you've had a good week so far as we're coming into hump day, and hopefully you have some good times ahead for the rest of the week. But today, we're going to go into MetaZoo again. Now, it's been a week since we last discussed MetaZoo and what has occurred, and today it's good to just kind of take a review of what's happened so far in the last week, now that the dust has settled a little bit, and now that things have kind of gone through so we can see what is actually occurring. And today we're going to go over some of the things that have been said. We're going to take a look at some things of possible sales and that kind of stuff that are happening in MetaZoo. And also just kind of reviewing what's going on. Because once again, it's a good learning curve when it comes down to a TCG. And what happens when a fairly good sized one fails. When you actually have one that's maybe not that old, but definitely has a good name brand behind it. It's not like a lesser known TCG like My Heroes Academia or some of these smaller ones that people never even really hear about and don't even know that they exist. A lot of people in the TCG community knew about MetaZoo. So today we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. But today, first off, we're going to talk about what has changed or transpired since Wednesday of last week. Now, Wednesday, when we first started talking about MetaZoo, Instagram was shut down. It was gone. There was no Instagram available to be able to go to. Now, Instagram is back up of MetaZoo, which I thought was an interesting fact. As of today, when I recorded this, it's up. I also have heard and seen that it's been up and down, on, off, a few times here in the last week. So I don't know if this is going to be a consistent thing, that it's on or off, and what's happening. The other big thing that was discussed is that MetaZoo is being sold, and they were being sold to Bandai, and then Bandai was purchasing MetaZoo and in the process of doing so. Now, there's a way you can check this. And I know Nick's Strength and Pokemon really did a good job of breaking down the bankruptcy side, that he checked all the court records for where MetaZoo is. He checked for Mike and Andy, and he checked for MetaZoo. He checked for anybody suing them. He couldn't find anything in the courts going against that part of it. And these are all factors to know if it's been gone through bankruptcy. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't filing for bankruptcy. It just means that officially hasn't been filed in a court. And even if they have the paperwork gone in place and they might have the hearing up, it might even be scheduled, but until they have the hearing, it's really not set in stone, and you won't be seeing it on public records for a while. Or you shouldn't. I mean, I know typically you don't for a little bit until the hearing goes through and it's actually put into a bankruptcy. So it might be a little bit of a slowdown in that factor. But it comes down to also the sales part of things. Now, I know Nick's Strength and Pokemon did a really good job talking about the bankruptcy side, and he said that there was discussions of it being sold to, a different company such as Bandai, and then Bandai was in the process. That was the word on 4chan, that they were in the process of buying MetaZoo and going in that process. But the other thing is that when a publicly traded company, so Bandai is actually a publicly traded company, if they are going through the purchase of another company such as MetaZoo, and especially a multi-million-dollar transaction that would probably occur for a company of that size, just because of its IP alone is probably worth at least $1 million. But in order for them to do that, they need to file with the SEC. They would have to do an SEC filing to show that they are looking at purchasing actually another company such as MetaZoo. Even if it's a publicly traded company or a public company, a privately or a private-owned company, they would still have to file that SEC form in order to do that, to notify their shareholders of this large purchase, so that their shareholders know, and the SEC can review it to see if it would create a monopoly, or the board of the SEC has to approve such a sale of a similar business such as MetaZoo, because it's TCG, they already own One Piece, they already own Dragon Ball Z, it's a similar composition of what they already do, so they would have to have that go through the SEC, at least in the United States, and they are on the New York Stock Exchange, so yes, they would have to go through that filing. There's no filing yet. If that filing hasn't been done yet, the sale of MetaZoo is probably still out months to Bandai if they have not filed that SEC filing. Now, Argos put out a couple other companies, and I checked the SEC filings on those. So if you follow Argos on the MetaZoo situation, he talked about a couple other companies that were looking at purchasing MetaZoo also, all of which were actually still publicly traded. I checked the SEC filings for all of those. They have a couple, like Bandai has another acquisition that they did back in 2013. Otherwise, it's just their standard forms or their standard yearly shareholders SEC forms that have been filed, but that's it. The other ones have no filings in the last since 2013, when the filings are actually still valid. So they go back 10 years in history, and we can see that far on there on the SEC filings list. After that, they remove them from the site. So in the last 10 years, none of these companies have done any major acquisitions of companies where they would have a filing like that, and Bandai is also included in that. So if any of them are looking at purchasing MetaZoo, they aren't in the process of doing so. And if MetaZoo is shut down operations, or it's to the point where they can't pay the printer, they can't pay the artist, they can't pay the company that's created their online server or their online game, if they're to that point where they can't even pay the $20,000 to the Black Tower winners, the chances are is that if their process isn't in place and it isn't taking place yet to where someone has filed an SEC, now I'm not saying that I've looked through every single company that could potentially buy them. I'm just going by what the hearsay has been and the companies that have been put out there by Argos and by, Nick Strength and Pokemon. Check their SEC filings, and there's nothing yet. And if there isn't, it would take at least a few months for the SEC board to take that up, then review it, and then approve it, and then send it out to shareholders that the sale was approved. I mean, you're talking months. And if MetaZoo's already in this flailing standpoint of where they can't pay their bills and they're already in that situation, it's not going to be soon enough. That's not going to stop them from having to claim bankruptcy at some point in time if they are at the point of where they owe everybody money. The one thing that we can really learn, and this is the one thing that I think we can really discuss when it comes down to MetaZoo, is when you're looking at a failing TCG, there's always signs. And people were talking about these issues all the way back in September, that they were seeing these issues like non-payments and artists leaving, all these chain of events that started to occur even back last summer. And we continually kind of brought it up. You watched it, you listened to it, you saw it happen. MetaZoo kept brushing it off. They were behind on the release dates by long shots, missing everything. And really seeing the overall track that we saw with this TCG could be a lot of red flags for individuals that are into these TCGs. If you are investing, if you are a player, you could see these things happen. It's a good idea to follow your TCG just so you get a feel for what's occurring and what you can do to basically be prepared for the situations that may occur. Always use things as a learning curve. There's always a learning curve to a lot of things out there, and this is a perfect example. Now, the other thing I want to talk about with MetaZoo is the fact that, Mike put all that stuff out. So if Mike did what he did, so the other theory has been out there, and this has been thrown around, that Bandai was buying up MetaZoo, and they were kicking Mike out, and Mike had a temper tantrum, and Waddell threw up all of these, posts that they're closing down, shut down the thing. If he did that, and he grenaded that company, imagine the legal ramifications that he could see. Overall, to sit there and grenade a company that's potentially in sale, do you think that Bandai would be in the process of in an acquisition and Mike would not be in a lawsuit already for doing the actions that he did? I mean, he literally grenaded the company at that point in time. He took every loyal fan that was in that company, left. Every loyal player, every loyal person that has been with this company through thick and thin, thinking that there was a chance that their beloved TCG would find a way to follow through with its list of things that it was going to change, and you throw that notice out there on Discord and you throw it out there on Instagram and expect the hobby and the members of that community to just go, oh, he was just mad. That was the reason it got thrown up and it got taken down real fast. These are all things that just, there's a lot of things that don't add up, and they still don't add up. And it may take months, even years, for this to all completely unravel. Or it may never be known for sure. But the bigger factor that I think we need to look at is that we know now what to look for on a dying TCG. You're seeing a TCG with issues. And I know some people are going to say it's not a dying TCG. It's just the IP is still there. The IP is still there. I agree. The problem with that IP is if MetaZoo goes into bankruptcy, that IP is going to be stripped down to nothing. So even the IP in a near future will be completely destroyed. multiple companies might end up with pieces of that IP. That intellectual property is going to be strewn around and fought over for who has the most value rights to it. Who does MetaZoo owe the worst to, and whose bill needs to be compensated first, are all going to decide what happens to that IP and how much of that intellectual property each company may end up with. And then, of course, we talk about the non-payment to the actual graphics company that built the MetaZoo Online platform. Are they going to keep that MetaZoo Online platform? Because now if MetaZoo is no longer in business, they haven't paid the actual company. It's still intellectual property of them. So now you've split that intellectual property between the card game and the online game, and you can keep going around and round. So now there's even getting to be less validity to the fact that that online game is still a thing, or that the IP is still a viable source for MetaZoo. And it sucks. It absolutely sucks. For anybody that's watching this video that thinks I'm just digging at MetaZoo, I am absolutely not doing that. Even on the last video, I had some people really saying that, you know, it's sad that this is happening, and I absolutely agree. To lose a beloved hobby and a TCG is just absolutely uncomprehensible at the end of the day. If you enjoyed something and you lost it, that would be just terrible. I could just imagine losing Pokemon, or even when I started out losing Magic right at the beginning when it was only 3-4 years old. I would be absolutely devastated, and to be honest with you, I would have a hard time trusting any new TCG out there if I was part of it. Just because you put your trust, you enjoy something, it's something that you call your own, and you have a community built around it, and then the rug is just pulled right out from underneath you. And it sounds like the rug was pulled out of not just you as, you know, members and as community members, as players, but also some of their bigger backers, such as Argos, a big backer of MetaZoo, you know, and they just pulled the rug out from him too. They never notified him. They never gave him information. They just whipped the rug out from underneath him too, so he fell flat on his face while promoting MetaZoo as hard as he was all this time. And that's a big situation that I think is, you know, very hurtful to the community, and I am very sorry for you guys. I really, truly do feel sorry for the situation that's been brought in. And we can sit there and try and bash people with MetaZoo, and I won't do that. I don't think there's any reason to do so. If you love the TCG and you enjoyed it, you have every right to do so. And you should enjoy it. You should still love it. If you still love it, play it as a dead TCG. Continue to play it. Continue to be involved with it. That's great. Remember it and have fun with it. That's exactly what we should do with a TCG. If that happened to Pokemon, we've said that. I've said it myself. If Pokemon went out of business today, I would not stop playing Pokemon. I would not get rid of my cards. I would open every card I had, build the best battle decks I could, and we would probably still be playing at the TCG for years to come. Just because it's fun. We would probably break every rule. We would change every rule out. We would be playing classic decks. We would be playing all kinds of stuff and just enjoying the hobby as it is. Do that. Enjoy MetaZoo. Still use it. Still play it. Still meet with friends and talk about MetaZoo and do things with MetaZoo. It's great to do. MetaZoo is getting the most coverage that it has ever gotten in its career right now in the last week. The last week has given MetaZoo a new life online. On every one of our TCG platform videos, every single Pokemon channel that's covered MetaZoo, every single station, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, everything. You have got the most life that you have ever gotten out of this hobby, and I would take every advantage of it as you can while you can. Enjoy it. Play it. Go out with friends and have fun with it. Act as if it isn't dead yet, because we don't know all the full layout of what's occurring. Take the time to have fun and ignore the negativity that's around it right now. We don't know all the facts yet. Do I think that it's being sold to another company? No. I don't think that there's a company that's going to take on the kind of debt load that it sounds like that MetaZoo has. And the fact that Mike Waddell and Andy were really being disruptive to that company, the overall growth. When it comes down to it, I think that MetaZoo had something. I think that it could have been something, but it also threw a lot of standard TCG players out the window because you couldn't get access to it as easily at the beginning. It was too expensive. It became an investor's game more than it became a game. And that was a big situation that I don't think that Mike Waddell ever got away from. He continued to miss dates because he had too much money tied up into the wrong things. He was taking too much money out of the company. He was selling vaults. If you watch Nick Strength and Pokemon's latest video, he was selling on the backside out of his vault to the websites and to eBay and all these other locations to make more money and hide it on people. So that was always a speculation for the last 2 years, is that they had shadow accounts and were selling these products. And Nick Strength in Pokemon's video, and right in the first 7 minutes of his video, has a chat that was a private chat that actually said pretty much that exact. They confirmed that that's exactly what's been going on. And these are all situations that just plain and simply suck overall. Mismanagement of a potential decent IP. The intellectual property that was there could have been something. It definitely had every opportunity to do so, and that's what I've even said for the last 2 years on MetaZoo is I want to see it become a TCG. I don't want to see it continue to be an investment. Investments do not grow, especially from a new perspective. As things age, as Pokemon ages, yes, investors come in, collectors come in. There's collectability, investability, all these things occur on hobbies and collections as time moves forward. But it shouldn't be the number one thing right off the gate. You need to build a base of loyal customers, fans, players that enjoy your hobby. And when you're dealing with a limited IP, you're not dealing with an anime, you're not dealing with a game, an online Game Boy game, you're not dealing with the backings of other parts of your IP. You are strictly a TCG. That should have been the focus. And with the amount of money they had for the startup on that particular TCG, they definitely could have done it. They could have done some fantastic events to kick this thing off, got product to LGSs, and grew an actual TCG. And to the people that are out there that really did enjoy MetaZoo, I am truly sorry. Everything I'm hearing from all these different sites right now, all the people are digging into MetaZoo further and further, are definitely pointing out the true facts that it was just all mismanagement straight down the line, not paying the people that need it to be, taking too much money out of the top for themselves, going through and not meeting the deadlines for release dates over and over and over again. You don't have reliability, and reliability is a crucial factor to any business. So, in hindsight, I hope that we can learn something from MetaZoo for everybody else's hobby, for Lucana, for One Piece, for even Dragon Ball Z with its reboots, that we can take our time and examine this. Digimon's back, so check out Digimon too. See if you can catch these situations before they become a problem. If you see the writing on the wall where you're seeing mismanagement, overprinting, all of these situations coming to a head, then you can definitely make a call to decide whether or not you want to get totally and morally invested into that particular company, or if you need to start preparing yourself for the worst, as we've seen with MetaZoo. Take the signs. Don't necessarily take them as written in stone, but definitely take it as what could be coming if you start seeing the situations. Now, do I think One Piece and Lucana are in the same boat as MetaZoo? No, I don't think they're in the same boat necessarily, but only time will tell if they can maintain enough growth and enough respect as a TCG to continually make it. So once again, guys, thank you guys for watching. This will probably be the last video that I do on MetaZoo. On Friday, I'm looking at One Piece. So for anybody out there, I've had a lot of requests for my opinion on investments in One Piece and what I would do. So I will be doing a video on that on Friday, covering the One Piece market and talking to you guys about what's currently happening in that market. And if you do like this kind of content, as always, and if I've hopefully earned your respect for a subscribe today, make sure you do hit that subscribe before you leave. Also, hit that notify so that you know when we're doing new videos such as this on Pokemon, typically. And also make sure you hit that like button before you leave. It's greatly appreciated. And hopefully we can see you on the next live coming up Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central Time, we will be having a live. And then in 2 weeks, we do have Java coming in for the Choose Your Path series. So we'll be continuing that coming up here on the 2 Tuesdays from now. So we will be having him join us. So hopefully he's excited. Hopefully we can have some fun talking to him about how he has grown his path in the Pokemon TCG. Other than that, check out the 2 videos at the end, and we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.